Well, welcome to the podcast. And as I keep saying, we've said in 2022, we're going to change it up a bit. We're going to come to a lot of different people and we're going to get a lot of different stories. This week is no different. Maven Quest is a paranormal investigator, a creativity expert, and a author from Missouri in the United States. Welcome to the show, Maven. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me on your show.
So we're not going to have any, shadows or uninvited guests come along and appear on the screen after we edit, are we?
Okay.
No, no one's going to call past that we don't know about.
No.
Okay, that's awesome. So you've always grown up where you are, or did you grow up in another part of America?
No, I grew up here. I did live for a year and a half out in California,
Hmm.
but ended up coming back to Missouri under unusual circumstances. Let's just say I hooked up with the wrong man
Hmm.
and, ended up getting pregnant. He tried to hurt me,
Hmm.
so I ended up moving back to
Hmm.
where my was.
Yep.
Um, to have a nice, safe support network
Yeah.
of people. I have a beautiful daughter from the experience. I absolutely love her to pieces. She's very feisty, but has the biggest heart you could ever ask for.
So a little bit like a mum.
More feisty than me.
So did you go to school where you are now, or is that in another part as well?
I went to Franklin Smith Elementary and so did my kiddo. And she goes, "Okay, mom, did you go to this school too?" And I'm like, "Yeah, baby girl. Well, what about this school?" She's actually going to a different middle school, but she'll be going to the same high school. And she even asked me, she says, "Mom, how do you feel about me going to the same high school as what
Hmm.
you did?" I told her, I said, "Honey, I said, I love this school. I
Hmm.
love the teachers, I love the mascot. I loved all the teachers. I said, you will be just fine." And of course, I mentioned the colors in the mascot because being more artistic, I'm just like, "Oh, beautiful colors." But I told her, I said, "I have no problem with you being here." I do have her keep in mind that we are wanting to relocate somewhere else. And I said, "So you might not graduate
Hmm.
from school, but I'm thrilled that you're going."
And so where did you go to uni at?
I'm sorry.
Where did you go to university at? To college?
I went to Central Missouri State University
Hmm.
in Pittsburgh, Missouri. I got an illustration degree. I actually wanted to be an animator for Disney. And so I went to that college. They said they were fifth in the nation in the art
Hmm.
department. All excited. And it was I still had like a year and a half to graduate and found out they did not have an animation department at
Hmm.
all. I did not want to leave home like for another college states away.
Hmm.
It's it's not like other countries where you drive 2 hours and you can be somewhere else. The US is pretty big and I just didn't want to be that far away from home. So I went on and finished up my degree and decided maybe the universe has another path for me. And so instead of really pursuing my arts, I still paint.
Hmm.
But I focused on writing, and of course, you said paranormal investigations,
Hmm.
guilty as charged. I have a whole other side that has been with me ever since I was a little child, just having experiences and
Yeah.
wanting to embrace.
So we're going to get into the creativity side of it as well, because I think these days a lot of times that gets suppressed by people, uh,
Yeah.
and big business, and you've got to go and do this and do that. But more importantly, when you were at university, what was more important to you, the study or the social side?
Study.
Study.
I Yeah. I, believe it or not, was an introvert. I've never been big into parties. Okay, so this is gonna sound a little bizarre. I've always been sensitive to energy,
Hmm.
and so there's a large group of people around, without being used to someone's energy would actually give me some anxiety. So I kind of shied away from big groups, and I actually more enjoyed staying in my dorm room, either painting or writing. And of course, some boring things like watching the History Channel or, I always wanted to learn about different cultures. So here I am, watching the Discovery Channel, the History Channel. I mean, anything I could get my hands on just to expand my knowledge about like the world around me. So I didn't spend often partying. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Big business these days, they don't seem to like or encourage what we call creatives. I mean, you're a creative, you work to your own time clock, you work to your own pace with your own everything, and you get the same goals. You just go there down a different path. Do you think with as we come out of COVID with a bit of luck, creativity in people has been brought out because they've been sitting at home working, or do you think business is still trying to push that away because that's a little different? But we still want you to design a really good ad for us.
To be quite honest, it's a little bit of both. It kind
Yeah.
of depends on the person. For me, it spawned my creativity.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, so I can't spend that much time with my friends. What can I do?
Hmm.
And so I decided to pursue my projects. When you go paranormal investigating, I have a co-investigator that goes with me because
Hmm.
it's not good to go alone. So small group, you just social distance, wear a mask, and see if the ghosts are willing to talk. So you can still have those functions.
Yeah.
This is the perfect time to really sit down, get focused on publishing my book and trying to see what I can do creatively. This year, well, last year in 2021, becoming a best-selling author and
Hmm.
launching a YouTube channel, I kind of leaned more toward the creative side. But
Hmm.
I do years where, you were talking about the businesses where it's like, yeah, this is great, but so I've kind of I've witnessed both sides of that.
Hmm.
And a lot of people, as you mentioned, there are some parts of the world where they don't really connect with the
No.
artist, the artistic side. And so a lot of those people will say, "Oh man, these last couple of years have really sucked and I didn't get to do anything. I didn't, they just kind of stayed at home. They got bored." For artists, though, we look at this and go, "What can I create? What can I
Hmm.
get in? Who can I reach out and contact and push this project forward for me on a personal level?
Hmm.
What can I do?" So, I had some friends that were not very artistic, and they were like, "Man, these last couple of years have sucked." And then there's me, and I'm like, "Woohoo! Podcast, YouTube channel, let's go." It just, it depends on what you do that makes you happy. What are your passions? Did you tap into those passions when you had that extra time?
So, how does someone who is a creative, and I've got a cousin that's a creative, very, very successful. She's a painter and a few other things. And when she's focused, she's fantastic. But of course, when they're not, you can't work with them. And that's just the truth. But I mean, they are different cats, as we call them in Australia.
Yeah.
With people who know they're creative and they know they're looking for something slightly different, how do they find what is going to work for them? Because you can be a writer, you can be a painter, you can be anything. You can be a designer, you can be, dressmaker. It doesn't matter. They're all creatives. How does someone, when they see this, they've got this energy, they know they don't fit in the normal mold? What do they do to find where they've got to go?
That question's very interesting. I ran across that recently. Um, I did end up recently in a magazine, but I knew it was not a perfect fit.
Hmm.
This is kind of what I do as artist, as being creative. Yes, you have to be inspired to really have that spark and edge to your artwork. If you're stressed, if you're
Hmm.
upset, oh, it's like a creative killer. It's just like it's a complete downer, and everything you touch does not go well. But the one thing that I have learned is following that gut instinct. If you get a knot in your stomach, and there are those that are procrastinators.
Hmm.
So when I start procrastinating on a project and I have that knot in my stomach, I know it's not a good fit.
Hmm.
So I went on, and it took me 2 months to write up a a magazine article that should have only taken me a day to 4 days to complete.
Hmm.
I mean, I can just crank it right out. And that was my first indication this is not a good fit. There was a lot of obstacles to overcome, a lot of frustration. My marketing coach, Marav, miraculously made it work at the very last minute. But I told her, I said, this is not a good fit for me. I can feel it in my energy. I feel sluggish.
Hmm.
It feels good. Something's not right. Something's not meshing up. And, for many years, I ignored that gut instinct. And now I've learned that I have to pay attention to it. Even at one time I told Marav, I said, this magazine's not a good fit, and that's okay. There are other magazines out there. I want to pursue those instead. Um, yeah, but like I said, Marav is a very fiery, passionate individual. And she's like, no, we're going to make this work. Like I said, she found a way to wave her magic wand and just proof everything in place. It was wonderful. But on my end, um, I have learned a very important lesson. If I hesitate for one moment in completing anything, I know it's not a good fit. And
Do you think sometimes creatives just need somebody to focus the energy that they've got, just to give them a bit of direction without telling them what to do?
it depends. It depends really on the person. There are a lot of whimsical artists out there that do need the focus, that do
Mm.
need the and I kind of toggle in both worlds, because you've got the whole analytical side of me,
Mm.
where really I overthink things. I will honestly admit that I overthink, but I analyze everything. I look at all the nitty-gritty details.
Mm.
All I need is just an outline of what's needed, and I'm good to go. I
Mm.
roll with it, have my own focus. But I have met a lot of people in the artistic community that they're just, they've got, I'm going to use some strange terms here. They have a lot of air element to them, where they just kind of float, they drift, they lack a
Mm.
lot of grounding and decision making, and as what most people would call focus. They're not seated within themselves and their own energy to go, this feels right, I'm going to do this, this is my passion. They don't always follow through with goals because they're just so
Mm.
busy creating. They kind of get lost in their own
Yeah,
little world sometimes.
I get that. I've coached it, and I do myself. When you find yourself needing the focus, I find a good quick 10-15 minute meditation with the phones off, nothing
Yes.
else, all of a sudden brings you back to center.
Exactly. I have to meditate. I try to every day. Doesn't
Mm.
always. Um, I have had to learn different forms of meditation, because a lot of practitioners will say you have to silence your
Mm.
mind. My mind never shuts off. So what I have decided is I will meditate, and I will just let my
Mm.
thoughts right through me. I have
Yep.
to release it. I can't keep it bottled up. I can't. hang on to the anxiety. I'm like, okay, why am I bothered by this or stressed out by this? Or why does this not feel right? And I just sit there and I sit in the energy and I just really feel through it. And then usually after, as you said, like maybe 10 or 15 minutes of meditation, I'm back in alignment
Mm.
and I'm focused with what's working, and I start coming up with solutions that's not working.
Yeah. And look, people think meditation is sitting in a corner, crossing your legs and chanting some funny words. And I always say to people, meditation is what you choose. You can go to
Exactly.
a practitioner and learn it formally. And I said, do you realize, I said, most top grade sports people do it before they walk on the field. And I said, what do you mean? I said, have a look when they show the coverage from the change room, and you'll see different people in different states. Some have got music on, some are sitting quietly. And I said, they're meditating. I said, it's just in a different way. I said, a meditation can be doing the Tony Robbins thing. And I've been to Tony, and I do love him. And, getting yourself into peak state, that is meditation.
Yeah.
And if it brings you focus and it brings you calmness and you're ready to rock, who cares? So with that energy and all that, do you find that how you got into paranormal investigation, or was that something you found out early and then decided as an adult, oh, I might just go and do a little bit more of this and see why the piece of furniture at my next door neighbour's keeps moving when there's no one in the house?
I I actually, when I was little, I actually had experiences,
Hmm.
and the experiences terrified me.
Hmm.
And most of my family members didn't understand it. They didn't have those experiences. They're like,
Hmm.
"What are you talking about?" And it, as I got older, though, I was still afraid, and I thought, I don't like being afraid. If I'm
Hmm.
afraid of something, I want to face it.
Hmm.
You know, I want to spend my energy on other things than being afraid. And I couldn't, it's not like I could stop the visitors. They they come and go as they please. So I'm like, okay, if this is something I can't change, if
Hmm.
this is something that's happening to me, I'm going to embrace it. I'm going to
Yep.
face it head on, and I'm going to start making house calls. You guys visit me, I'm going to start visiting you. I'm like, I've had enough. Fine, you want me? Here I am.
Has anyone ever asked you to rid a house or a building of a spirit?
I I actually had someone say that their place was haunted. I went over to their house and cleansed their house because they
Hmm.
were very fearful. That's the only time I've been asked to, but a lot of times on my investigations, I can set foot on the property, look at the house, and just know. I know where the activity is. I can tell, by just looking at some of the windows if something's in that room, staring back, or just present in that room. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna have to check out that window, that room, because I'm really drawn to it. There's something there. A lot of times I can tell if there's nothing in the house.
Hmm.
I had a friend suggest that maybe, and I'm not sure exactly how to turn this into a career yet, but she's like, a lot of realtors could actually use somebody who's sensitive when they're selling a house. There's
Hmm.
people who they move in and find out it's haunted and things start flying off the walls, and it would have been nice to know that before buying the house. And not all realtors have that sense that something's in the house.
So what do you say to the people who are skeptics and turn around and say, really, this is just your creative imagination? It's a load of gobbledygook and doesn't exist.
I do feel like people have the freedom to believe what they want.
Hmm.
I can honestly say that there have been experiences that I've had that I've shared with a witness.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of times I will go into a location and I will bring another person with me. And I'm not the only one that's, hearing the noises, hearing the footsteps,
mm,
seeing shadows in the hallway. So while, others could say it's just my imagination, it's
mm.
kind of say that when there's more than one of you having the same experience.
I had an experience we're in a state called Tasmania, which is where they used to take a lot of the convicts when Australia was first settled uh, by the English, and it's a horrible place, but it's also a calm place. We had the gentleman that went mad with a gun and killed many people down there years and years ago. But when you go into some of the areas there, into solitary confinement, now these buildings are 200 years old. You can walk
Right.
in and out of them, but there was one. Now, here's someone like me who's open to it. I could get 3 steps in and had to walk out, and nobody that whole day could walk in. Now, we know why. It was the men's solitary confinement. It was where the bad of the bad went. And there was obviously a spirit in there that wasn't the nicest of person. Have you ever gone into someone or a house like that, and we call it the back of your spine lit up, and gone, there is evil in this room?
Yeah, twice.
Hmm.
So I remember going on an investigation at the Beatty Mansion. It's in St. Joseph, Missouri.
Hmm.
And I stepped onto the property, and it was kind of like a U-shaped house.
Hmm.
They At first it was a house, but then they built onto it and kind of turned it into like a care center for the elderly. And I was looking at the main part of the house, and I was like, man, there's something up in that window on the second floor, and the other side of the house was more active. And so we went inside and we went on a tour, and we went down into the basement. We walked into this room, and I immediately got so sick and nauseous. I had to walk out of the
Hmm.
group, walk out of the room. And I could hear him as I was leaving the room. Oh, yeah, this is George's room, and he likes to make people sick to their stomach. And I'm like, yep, yep, I can already feel it. I'm out. It's like, I cannot go in there. And the ironic thing is, my co investigator, Trisha, she felt the same way because after I left the group, then she stepped forward because she wanted to hear the
Hmm.
presentation, the tour, and then she got sick and nauseous and had to walk out. And she's like, I don't know about you. And I said, well, why do you think I stepped back? you know. So we felt that at the Beatty Mansion, and there's a place called the McIntyre Villa, and it's in Atchison, Kansas. And every once in a while, you can go up to the second floor and you reach the top of the steps, and there's something there that's just
Hmm.
blocking you. And you're no, no, you have to go back down. And you can go back up 20 minutes later and have no problem going to the second floor. But every once in a while, there is something there that goes, no, this is my space. This is my time. You leave. And you're like, okay, never mind. I will try to go upstairs later. I even saw a black hand come around the corner at the top of the stairs and reach around the wall. And I'm like, Trish, and I shouted downstairs to her. And she goes, yeah. I said, I can't be alone up here right now. Can you come with me? She's like, what? I said, please.
Hmm.
I saw a hand reach around. The ironic thing is, after about a month or two, another group came in to investigate. They were upstairs on the second floor. They looked down the hallway to that exact room, and they saw a black hand reach around the corner at the same spot where I saw it. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, there's something in that house.
I remember asking a priest about it one day, who was open, who had a totally open mind, very strong in his faith, of course. And I said to him, "What do you think it is?" And he turned around and he said, in his words, "I believe that all they are spirits who haven't passed on, and they either have to be told it's okay to pass on, or they have to say their message. And once their message is heard, quite often, and then you have the ones stuck. They're not
Yeah,
going to get into heaven, and they haven't worked out that they've got to go the wrong way."
I absolutely agree with that. Although there was one time where I do believe I ran across an inhuman entity. Um, Most of the time, I absolutely agree. It's either a residual haunting, which means it's not really a person. The energy of that
Mm,
person is in the walls on the staircase. Those are the footsteps that you hear up and down the stairs with
mm,
no interaction. You know, they don't interact with you. They don't make things move. They don't try to talk to you. It's just constant going, those footsteps. It's just a repetitive,
mm,
either thing or something, because houses actually absorb your energy.
mm,
Um, and I say that because when a house has nobody living in it, it tends to fall apart much quicker than what it does when people reside in there. So
true.
your energy imprints in the wall. So you can have a residual energy. Sometimes it is a spirit that just needs to be told to go into the light. Other times they do have a message, but I have encountered something much darker that actually left a scratch on my arm so deep. It's not just me just scratching my arm and leaving
Mm,
marks. This is like gouged, it scabbed over something completely unexplained. It was feverish, it was packing heat, and there was no way. I just cut myself on something. I had actually worn a winter coat that was about an inch
mm.
thick, and it still carved my skin. And it stuck around for about 8 months. It took a
Mm.
long time.
See, that priest I spoke to would turn around and say that what you've come across is just pure evil.
It was.
Mm,
I I will absolutely agree. During that investigation, we actually had a piece of equipment called a spirit box,
mm,
and actually flips through radio
mm,
stations so that the spirits can use the words off of different channels to speak what they have to say. And as I sat there, I felt dizzy. I was feeling sick. I felt this oppressive energy that was like
mm,
trying to, like it, for lack of better terms, I felt like it was trying to enter me. Now you're talking to a person that's never believed in possession.
mm,
You know, that feeling made me question that. And I kept feeling a dark energy crawling. It felt like it was crawling back and forth in the hallway of the room where we were sitting. And I wasn't feeling good. And it felt like an eternity that we were in there. And it was only an 18-minute EVP session. And then when I go home, I found this mark on me.
mm.
Um, so I
See, a
have,
lot of psychiatric nurses will tell you they believe in possession. They know the people who have lost their mind. And I didn't believe in it until I came across somebody one day. And I was at the bottle shop getting some beer and serving this, and there was this guy in front of me being served. And he was the most, I'd call it, deadest person I'd ever seen. And he didn't speak. And then he turned around and looked at me and kept going, and all there was black in his eyes. And he not long got out of jail. And I looked at the guy behind the counter. He looked at me as if to say, "What is that?" But we weren't. He was possessed. He was pure evil.
and I guess the reason why I didn't believe necessarily in
Mm,
possession is I never wanted to encounter it or
mm,
people always say, whatever you think about, you bring about. I never wanted to have
that's the
that
truth. Yeah.
in my life. So, it was kind of scary to know that I was sitting there contemplating, is this what possession feels like? Is this
Mm,
trying to invade my space? Because I felt just so dizzy and so sick, and I could just feel something out in the hallway. One thing I didn't experience at the time, but I did post it on my
mm,
YouTube channel. I posted that EVP session where I experienced all of that. And the person who was leading the session, I said, Gabrielle, I said, I feel something out in the hallway.
mm,
I do too. It's like it's crawling back and forth on the floor. So that was kind of like confirmation that, yeah, she was kind of picking up on it too. And so she asked the spirit box, who is out in the hallway? And it repeated Satan. I just, I didn't hear that at the time. Whether or not that is true, I don't know, but the experience I had was creepy. Even Gabrielle has investigated that location several
Mm.
times and experienced what I felt probably about 3 or 4 times. So,
Well, look,
um,
people are gonna. The one thing they can't falter is it doesn't matter if you believe in God or not, or you believe in an afterlife or whatever. The spirit is still in every animal. The spirit is still in every person, and when you pass, it has to go somewhere. I
yes,
mean, the religious term is your conscience, which is what your spirit is, and it has to go somewhere. When it comes to business, sometimes you see a building and business after business after business goes in, and it never works. And
yeah,
you sit there going, there's something wrong there. I mean, all these people can't get it wrong. All these people
exactly.
who know business can't get it wrong. Do you think sometimes that business isn't as open to other things as much as they should be? And they could
I,
probably do things a lot better if they were?
yes, absolutely. If there was some form as a business owner, you know, to be in tune with who you are energetically opens you up to picking the right building with the right energy frequency to boost your business.
Hmm.
Uh, Sometimes you can stay away from a building going, oh, that's not the place for me. You
Hmm.
you start feeling it. And yeah, I've witnessed quite a few buildings where people will move in, they will move out, they don't stick around. And if they just would have been more in tune with their environment, with what's going on energy wise, they probably would have never picked that building. And they would learn to seek out a building that is at the best frequency, the highest frequency to align them with prosperity, to actually make their business more prosperous than what it would have been at a different location.
Do you think they need to do the same when it comes to picking staff?
Yes, my best advice with staff. I used to work at like a summer camp,
Hmm.
and the director of the summer camp would just take pity on anybody who applied.
Hmm.
There were some people that if you would have really read their energy, that they should have never been hired.
Yeah.
Kind of goes back to that feeling in your gut. Within the last couple of years, I've really paid attention to it. I used to push projects that didn't feel good, and then the outcomes were not always the best. And I've learned that if there's that knot in the stomach, whether it's toward a project or a person or a building, don't do it. just just don't do it.
Have you ever come across with being paranormal ever with an energy that's total joy, pure joy?
No, I think if you ran across an entity there that is pure joy, it is either a family member that has crossed over, that's
Mm.
just checking on you. I do believe that we all have angels or guides,
Mm.
beings that work with you to keep you safe. Those are pure joy. When you go investigating, unless it's one of your own spiritual team, it's not going to be joy.
So none
It
of these spirits have asked you out on a date yet.
No, I wish though. No.
uh, that's a,
um, but usually when you step in there, it's usually a heavy presence. It's a fearful one.
mm.
Um, for one, a lot of these beings don't want you in their house. It'd be like you have a house, you've died,
Mm.
you don't know you've died, and you have these strangers entering your house.
Mm.
That's why the EVPs will hear leave, go, get out, because you're in their space.
Well, that someone did a movie about it called Beetlejuice.
Yeah. exactly. That's how they feel about it.
Mm,
They're like, okay, excuse me, you're in my house. I did not invite you here.
mm,
I try to be as respectful as possible.
yeah.
I go, I'm just like, say, hey, I am here temporarily. I am just a wanderer. I have traveled here because I am curious if there is a message that you have that you need to get through to a family member, or if there's something on your mind, please, please let us know. We would love to help you any way we can. But a lot of times the spirits just kind of want to be left alone. They Sometimes they don't realize they've crossed over, and they get caught up, almost kind of like how we are in our living daily lives.
Mm,
We get caught up into so much of the 3D, the money, the house, the
mm,
car, the business, that we forget there's more to life. It's like, when was the last time you woke up and just kind of tuned in your ears to the birds that sing in the morning?
mm.
The last time you took in the beauty of a flower, or connected to an animal and
Being
just
present in the moment,
I'm sorry?
being present in the moment, as we call it.
Yes,
Yeah.
we forget.
Oh, look,
And
it's nothing worse. You go to a live music festival, the most amazing bands on, and people are looking through their bloody phone. And I sit there
yeah,
going, you know, you're never going to do anything with that footage. Put the phone in your pocket and just go with the music. Just enjoy the moment.
exactly. And that's exactly what's going on with these spirits. They
Mm,
have got so mentally trapped in their house, in their belongings, in their life.
mm.
It could be passion, pain, sorrow, loss, that they forget to be in the moment.
Yeah, true, true. Couple of last questions.
Yeah.
When someone is a manager and they've got creatives that they need to employ, mostly to, to do artwork and all that, and to do, the things that they're absolutely awesome at, what is the best way for a manager to look after a creative so they don't walk out, so they get the most out of them and they get, and everyone's happy?
This is kind of an interesting question. Part of the reason why I chose not to pursue artwork is the stress of a paycheck relying on my artwork.
Mm,
One thing that I would suggest to any business owner that needs a creative, you know, not just
mm,
contracted, but someone long term that's going to be in there, allow them to, if they need like references to draw something, allow them a means to go to a location where they can draw on site. Let them get used to, say you need a zebra drawn, send them to the zoo.
mm,
Sit down, work with the animal, get used to the muscle structure, the bone structure. It's good to have like paper reference, but to actually get in tune with what they're trying to draw.
mm,
It might be good practice to incorporate meditation into part of their duties.
mm,
Okay, required from 10 to 10:15 to sit in meditation and just kind of release the stress that's in your mind. Just breathe, because a lot of artists are in tune with their emotions. And as long as that's not in check, if they're not centered, grounded, then the work they produce is not going to be at its peak.
mm. Interesting, interesting. Is there anyone that you would sit down that has passed over that you'd like to sit and have a coffee with? If you
If
could say, I can tune into anybody, who would you tune into?
Tesla, Nikola Tesla, I
Mm,
would, I he had a lot of interesting beliefs about social structure,
yeah.
and I want to know what other projects he would have started working on before passing away.
Mm,
I would love to know what other things he would enjoy inventing. So that would probably be my favorite person to get in
So
touch with.
while I am going to put it in the show notes, where do people chase you up, follow you up, see what you're doing, stalk you, all the normal things?
Yeah. Hey, stalkers are welcome. I have a website, arcturusawakens.com. I also have a podcast. It only has 2 episodes right now, but I got a new microphone and I got new sound equipment, and I'm going to start putting episodes on about narrating some of the scariest stories I can find on the internet. That is also titled Arcturus Awakens, and I believe it's on Spotify. I definitely know it's on Anchor
Mm.
FM. I have a YouTube channel, Phantom Files. And also on Facebook is Maven's Book Club. So that's kind of where I go to for
Mm.
all books. I'm about to release a poetry book. I'm working on another science fiction novel as a sequel to the first book I wrote, Atlantis City
Yep.
of Maven. And yeah, that's probably the best places to find me.
Well, me and my spirits have very much enjoyed listening to you today.
It's been
I love doing things a little bit outside of the normal box and challenging people's thoughts. And I hope that they become a little bit more open to what's going on around them after listening to this podcast.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's been amazing talking to you as well. You being so open is not exactly something I expected, and it was really fun, at least on my end.
No, that's okay. And as we say at the end of all of our podcasts, have a groovy day.